This is 951, again with the juveniles, residential treatment facilities for children and youth, and this is admissions. The director of a residential treatment facility for children and youth may receive as a patient a person in need of care and treatment in such a facility who has been certified as needing such care by the pre-admission certification committee, serving the facility and in accordance with priorities for admission established by such committee as provided by the section. Okay. B. Persons admitted as inpatient to hospitals operated by the Office of Mental Health upon the application of the director of the Division for Youth. See, here it says Division for Youth. I don't know. Who are not subject to restrictive placement. Again, these are this is on the application of the director of the Division for Youth. B. Persons admitted as inpatients to hospitals operated by the Office of Mental Health upon the application of the director of the Division for Youth who are not subject to a restrictive placement may be transferred to a residential treatment facility for children and youth. The director of the Division for Youth shall be notified of any such transfer. When appropriate, the director of the residential treatment facility may arrange the return of a patient so transferred to the hospital, or the transfer of a patient to another hospital, or to the Division for Youth. Again, the director of the Division for Youth shall be notified of any such transfer. When appropriate, the director of the residential treatment facility may arrange the return of a patient, 1, so transferred to the hospital, or 2, the transfer of a patient to another hospital, or 3, to the Division for Youth. Oops. C. The commissioner shall designate pre-admission certification committees. When designating persons to serve on the pre-admission certification committees, the commissioners shall assure that the interests of the people residing in the area to be served by each committee are represented. And who these people are going to be on the committee? Well, here. Such committees should include, such committees shall include 1, a person designated by the Office of Mental Health. 2, a person by the State Commissioner of Social Services. And 3, a person designated by the State Commissioner of Education. Membership of pre-admission certification committees shall be limited to persons licensed in accordance with the educational law to practice medicine, nursing, psychology, or licensed clinical social workers. Okay. Each pre-admission certification committee shall designate 5 persons representing local governments, voluntary agencies, parents, and other interested persons who shall serve as an advisory board to the committee. Such board shall have the right to visit residential treatment facilities for children and youth served by the committee and shall have the right to review clinical records obtained by the pre-admission certification committee and shall be bound by the confidentiality requirement of section 3313 of this section, of this chapter, And D, all applications for admission or transfers of an individual to a residential treatment facility for children and youth shall be referred to a pre-admission certification committee for evaluation of the needs of the individual and certification of the individual's need for treatment in a residential treatment facility for children and youth. Applications shall include an assessment of the individual's psychiatric, medical, and social needs prepared in accordance with the uniform assessment method specified by the regulations of the commissioner. Okay. And it's paid by all third-party insurance or federal reimbursement available as payment for the assessment. The state shall pay the balance of the fees which may be charged by the provider in accordance with applicable provisions of law. The Pre-Admission Certification Committee shall review all requests for evaluation and certification within 30 days of receipt of a complete application and any additional assessments it may require, and using a uniform assessment method specified by the regulation of the commissioner, evaluate the psychiatric, medical, and social needs of the proposed admittee and certify 1. The individual's need for service in a residential treatment facility for children and youth. 2. The immediacy of that need, given the availability of such service in the area and the needs of other children, evaluated by the committee and certified as eligible for admission to a residential treatment facility for children and youth who have not been admitted to such facility. A pre-admission certification committee shall not certify an individual for admissions unless it finds that, now this is a really long list. 1. Available ambulatory care resources and other residential placement do not meet the treatment needs of the individual. So a pre-admission certification committee shall not certify an individual for admissions unless it finds. Okay, so this is what it has to have. Okay. Available ambulatory care resources and other residential placements do not meet the treatment needs of the individual. 2. Poor treatment of the individual's psychiatric condition requires inpatient care and treatment under the direction of a physician. I'm sorry, that doesn't say poor, it says proper. Oh, God. Okay, again. A pre-admission certification committee shall not certify an individual for admission unless it finds that 1. Available ambulatory care resources and other residential placements do not meet the treatment needs of the individual. 2. Proper treatment of the individual's psychiatric condition requires inpatient care and treatment under the direction of a physician. 3. Care and treatment in a residential treatment facility for children and youth can reasonably be expected to improve the individual's condition or prevent further regression so that services will no longer be needed, provided that a poor prognosis shall not in itself constitute ground for family court if the decision is made to family court. Okay. No residential treatment facility for children and youth shall admit a person who has not been certified as suitable for such admission by the appropriate pre-admission certification committee. Oh, God. Now we're in, I don't know, there's E and F. No government agency shall make payment pursuant to Title 19 of the federal, I can't even see that being on the test. No person shall be admitted to a residential treatment facility for children and youth who has a mental illness which represents a likelihood of serious harm to others or a likelihood of serious harm shall mean a substantial risk of physical harm to other persons that's manifested by recent homicidal or other violent behavior by which others are placed in reasonable fear of serious physical harm. Okay. Any clinical records received by a pre-admission certification committee and all assessments submitted to the committee shall be kept confidential. Provided, however, that the commissioner may have access to and receive copies of such records for the purpose of evaluating the operation and effectiveness of the committee. Okay. Portion of the clinical record maintained by a residential treatment facility for children and youth operated by an authorized agency specifically related to medical care and treatment shall not be considered part of the record required to be maintained by such authorized agency pursuant to Section 372 of the Social Service Law and shall not be discoverable in a proceeding under Section 385A of the Social Services Law or 10A of the Family Court Act, except upon order of the Family Court. Provided, however, that all other information required by a local social services district or the Office of Children and Family Services for purpose of those sections shall be furnished on request, and confidentiality of such information shall be safeguarded. Now, this is 953. Oof, that was a long one. Okay, 953. Children in custody of social service officials or the Division for Youth. Okay. A. Admission of a child in the care and custody of a social service official or other agency, the director of the Division for Youth, or a person or entity granted such custody pursuant to Section 756 or 1055 of the Family Court Act to a hospital or residential treatment facility for children and youth shall not be considered to affect the change in custody of such child, and the responsibilities of such person or entity having custody of the child shall continue as described in the Social Services Law, the Executive Law, the Family Court Act, and in any court order granting such custody. So if a kid is in foster care, and they get put into this treatment facility for something, it doesn't mean that now foster care, the person who has foster care, was now the guardian, I guess they would be a guardian. It does not mean that they lose custody of that child. They still have custody of the child. That's what this is saying. Okay, persons in the custody of social service official, authorized agency, the Division for Youth, or another person or entity pursuant to an outstanding and valid court order shall only be released to the custody of that person or entity. So even if somebody's here, if they're in foster care, they have a foster parent, they're getting released. If they are to be released, they're getting released still to the foster parent. Okay. Prior to the discharge or release of a child who at the time of such a release remains in the custody of a social service official, authorized agency, the Division for Youth, or a person or entity granting such custody pursuant to those sections and the family court, the facility in which the child is receiving treatment shall plan the discharge of the child as required. So if there's like a treatment plan after, like, oh, the kid should go to outpatient or services for whatever this is for, they're going to do the facility's going to have like a plan for them when they get out. The facility shall prepare the plan in calibration with the person or entity having custody of the child, and it shall be the duty of such person or entity to cooperate with the facility in that effort. So if they say this person has to go for treatment Monday, Wednesday, Fridays at some place, the person who has custody of them, even if it's a foster parent, has to comply with it because they're going to need to take the kid to wherever they need to go for treatment. Okay, notwithstanding any inconsistent provision of law and subject to separate interagency agreement to be negotiated by the Commissioner of Mental Health and the Commissioner of Social Services and the Commissioner of Mental Health and the Director of the Division for Youth, information derived from clinical record as recorded by this section may be revealed to the person or entity having custody of the child to the extent release of such information is necessary to assure adequate discharge planning. So they're only going to tell them, they're not going to tell them like everything that goes on, but they will tell them what they need to know so they can plan their discharge and have a plan for these kids when they get out of treatment so they can, I don't know what it's for, be better. 958. Transport for evaluation. Powers of approved mobile crisis outreach teams. So thrilling. A physician or qualified mental health professional who is a member of an approved mobile crisis outreach team shall have the power to remove, direct the removal of any person to a hospital approved under 939 or Section 3127, which I don't know where that came from, for the purpose of evaluation for admission if such person appears to be mentally ill and is conducting himself or herself in a manner which is likely to result in a serious harm to the person or others. So this is if a person's suicidal or trying to kill someone, I guess. I don't know. B, if the team physician or qualified mental health professional determines that it is necessary to effectuate transport, he or she shall direct peace officers, police officers, state police, sheriffs to transport the person, take them into custody, and transport them. Upon the request of such physician or qualified mental health professional, an ambulance service is authorized to transport any such person. Such person may then be evaluated for admission in accordance with 927, 939, 940. Oh, so here we have 927. Or other section of this article, provided that such admission decisions shall be made independent of the fact that the person was transported pursuant to the provisions of this section, and such transport shall not create a presumption that the person should be involuntarily admitted to a hospital. C. The commissioner shall be authorized to develop standards in consultation with the commissioner of DCJS relating to the training requirements of the teams established pursuant to the section. Such training shall, at a minimum, help to ensure the provision of crisis and emergency services are provided in a manner which protects the health and safety and respects the individual needs and rights of persons being evaluated or transported. As used in this section, oh, this is a good one, it's a definition, approved mobile crisis outreach team. And why do they put this at the end of the section? Okay, whatever. Approved mobile crisis outreach team shall mean a team of persons operating as part of a mobile crisis outreach program approved by the Commissioner of Mental Health, which may include mobile crisis outreach teams funded pursuant to Section 4155 of this chapter. 2. Qualified mental health professional shall mean a licensed psychologist, registered professional nurse, licensed clinical social worker, or a licensed master social worker under the supervision of a physician, psychologist, or a licensed clinical social worker. Jeez. Wow. Yay, I'm almost done. I'm almost done. Yes. Oh, thank God. Okay. Emergency. This is 955. Emergency admissions for immediate observation, care, and treatment. The powers of the qualified psychiatrist. A qualified psychiatrist shall have the power to direct the removal of any person whose treatment for a mental illness he or she is either supervising or providing in a facility licensed or operated by the Office of Mental Health which does not have an inpatient psychiatric service, to a hospital approved by the Commissioner pursuant to 939 of this article, or to a comprehensive psychiatric emergency program if he or she determines, upon examination of such person, that such person appears to have a mental illness for which immediate observation, care, and treatment in a hospital is appropriate and which is likely to result in serious harm to himself, herself, or others. Upon the request of such qualified psychiatrists, peace officers, police officers, state police, sheriff's department shall take into custody and transport any such person. Upon the request of a qualified psychiatrist, an ambulance service, as defined by subdivision whatever the public law, is authorized to transport any such person. Such person may then be admitted to a hospital in accordance with the provisions of Section 939 of this article, or to a comprehensive psychiatric emergency program in accordance with 940. Okay. 959, immunity from liability. Notwithstanding any inconsistent provision of any general, special, or local law, an ambulance service as defined by subdivision 2 of whatever this public health law is, do we really need to know that? I don't know. And any member thereof who is an emergency medical technician or an advanced emergency medical tech transporting a person to a hospital as authorized by this article, any peace officer, any police officer, sheriff's department, and state police, right? Oh, okay. It doesn't say state police in this. Oh, shit. Well, state police and regular, like the police here, I guess is the same thing. I think. I'm hoping, because it says sheriff. I'm hoping it's the same thing, because I've been saying it. Okay. And any members of mobile crisis outreach teams approved by the Commissioner pursuant to Section 958 who are taking into custody any transportation. Oh my God. No. Crap. Now I'm on the last section. Transportation of persons to or between hospitals. In carrying out the transportation of any person to or between a hospital, including a comprehensive psychiatric emergency program pursuant to the provisions of this article, appropriate attempts shall be made to elicit the cooperation of the person to be transported prior to resorting to compulsory means of transportation. So meaning they would want somebody to agree to being on the stretcher, then to be put in a white coat and strapped down and taken to the hospital. And I am done with this article, and I am so happy.